Well, good evening and welcome to the May 13th edition of Sports on Sunset. I'm James Jericho and I'm nowhere near Sunset Boulevard. It's actually been very pleasant. I spent the last couple of days out in Apple Valley with my parents for Mother's Day. Jeremy will return next week when I return to Sunset Boulevard. I gotta tell you something, man. I was like sitting there kind of ruining the trip up here. I was under the impression that my parents, they own a little ranch. There's going to be all kinds of animals around. Animals ain't got shit on homeless people. Those people are incredibly... Oh my God. I've become desensitized to animal smell thanks to Hollywood, California. So this has been like potpourri for 3 solid days. And originally I wasn't going to talk sports... take a week off, but there were a couple of things that happened, so I wanted to talk about it and put it up. First thing I wanted to mention was I had an epiphany last night out in Adelanto. I am a conservative Republican. With that said, it's always a good idea to call yourself out when you're wrong. I have seen the wisdom of Barack Obama's ways. Because a few years ago, he got into some trouble. There was controversy as to bringing the Al-Qaeda prisoners, closing Guantanamo Bay and bringing them stateside. And if you give me a few minutes, I'll explain why I know I'm wrong now. See, Saturday I went to a minor league baseball game in Adelanto. Took a different route to the stadium. Normally I'm coming south up from San Bernardino. This time it was from the north down. And I passed a prison. Now you got to understand, prison is not a big deal in the Inland Empire, okay? I mean, my junior high school was next to Patton State Hospital in San Bernardino. It's a prison for the mentally insane. And every single morning in PE class, they would make us run laps right past all the child molesters in our cute little purple shorts. So... let's just say when it comes to prison, we're well versed in it. And I can also tell you there was no obesity epidemic at Serrano Junior High School, okay? We were hauling some serious ass to get away from those creeps. But as I was driving past the prison and I saw the game with my date, I realized that this was the prison where American Taliban Adam Gadon was located. Now, this is the guy, you might have seen him on the news before we caught him. This was the guy who gave the English translated Al-Qaeda videos, your streets will run red with blood, America is doomed, you're all infidels and your women are whores. And the funny thing was the guy was whiter than I am. And if you think white people look ridiculous when they act black, you ought to see them when they try and act Islamic, okay? There's just no difference. I mean, it's just bananas. And I'm watching this guy. I remember those things. And we caught him and we threw him in the prison up in Victorville. First off, Kazam, because he changed his name, Kazam. I think you may be the only morbidly obese terrorist I have ever seen. I mean, I don't know what the hell they fed you over at the Islamabad Red Lobster, but brother, you were at the all-you-can-eat lobster buffet. That was just incredibly ridiculous. Everybody else, you could see their rib cage through the burqas, okay? But you, on the other hand, they just rolled you in flour and threw you in front of the camera. Secondly, I gotta ask you, if all of our women are whores, why are some terrorists actually on plentyoffish.com? I would love the answer to that. I mean, here's one, Walid bin Atash. We caught him. Here's his online dating site. Hi, ladies. I love to travel, sometimes at a moment's notice. Really? No kidding. And thirdly, what in the blue hell were you doing renouncing your country in the first place? Look, I understand if you grew up on the mean streets of some urban area, you were hassled by the cops all your life, didn't have 2 food stamps to rub together, maybe you joined the Nation of Islam, maybe you sell some bean pies. That I understand. Dude, you grew up on a farm. Your dad was rich. You didn't have a tough upbringing, okay? The only thing that would have made it even more ridiculous is if your dad was a dentist. I mean, at what point do you sit there and actually think, oh yeah, this seven-figure life that I have, I'm going to throw all that away and live in my own squalor in Afghanistan. But then you got caught. Yeah. And now you're spending the rest of your life in a cell in the Inland Empire. Where 70 nights a year, you hear 3,000 Americans just living it up. And the ballpark is actually kind of nice for a minor league ballpark. You know, there's laughing children all over the place. There was like a tumbling troupe, a cheerleading troupe there. Beer, dancing girls, a little carnival, and a fireworks show after the game. Fireworks. And I know you could hear it all because the prison was right next door. And I know you couldn't see it, Adam, because you were getting raped. And this is where I think Barack Obama made his big mistake. You see, because he wanted to move Guantanamo Bay to North Dakota. I'm saying if you want to break their will, don't move them to North Dakota. Move Guantanamo Bay next to Staples Center. Yeah, I agree. Because you see, if you think 3,000 drunken yeehaws in the Inland Empire would break the will of the American Taliban, they have over 200 plus events a year over at Staples Center. I mean, it's one, and on top of that, it's one of the most blatant examples of American excess you could ever see. It's this big monstrosity with giant screen TVs all over the place, Laker girls, limousines, the Hollywood, the glitterati of Hollywood. That's the type of thing that I would want these pinheads to notice when they have their 1 hour break in the outdoors. That's what I would think would be great. Oh, and when the Grammy Awards come to town, because the Grammy Awards are also held at Staples Center, I would like an additional little thing to come out. I would like George Clooney to come out during the Grammy Awards, take the podium and say, I passed L.A. Gitmo, and it occurred to me that I think that, we should show mercy and compassion on those that we caught from Afghanistan. You know what? On second thought, go get back to the raping. I was just kidding you. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Stacey Keebler just got back from AdultCon over at the convention center next door. Who wants the ball gag? And that is what I think about terrorism in sports. I also have another thing. I believe that when you, I think it's one thing to support your team. I also think a real fan has to be honest and admit when his team has no chance. See, the Raiders, I used to be a Raiders season ticket holder, and the Raiders called me up and they asked me if I wanted to get my season tickets back with their new slogan, "Hey, we're scanning for knives now." But I had to decline. You see, because I have to be coming correct. The Raiders have absolutely no shot this year. None. It has nothing to do with Peyton Manning going to Denver. It has nothing to do with whether or not they did well at the draft. I will say this, though. The Chargers, I thought, did okay out of all the teams in the AFC West. It doesn't, as a matter of fact, it doesn't have any move at all that Reggie McKenzie made as the new GM of the Raiders. They have no chance this year because Rihanna is sleeping with Darren McFadden. I mean, now they are claiming that the TMZ reports that they're sleeping together. They're both claiming that didn't happen, but no, it's happening. They're sleeping together. Look, Rihanna, to call her talentless would be an understatement of galactic proportions. Britney Spears thinks Rihanna needs singing lessons, okay? But here's, on top of that, it's one thing if you were just a bad singer and a bad girl, which you are, but you are actually kryptonite to people's careers, especially world-class athletes. For a while, you were dating Matt Kemp. He had the worst season of his career. Then you guys break apart, and now all of a sudden, he's an MVP candidate for 2 years in a row. Ashton Kutcher, you were sleeping with him. Now he is seriously killing the show 2.5 Men. Look, if you as a girlfriend are so horrible that even Charlie Sheen is choosing strippers and porn stars over you, you might have to take a step back and work on your own personal thing and try and get that together. And now you're dating Darren McFadden. Darren McFadden is the next on your personal hit list. And I'm just running it down in my brain. You've ruined a music career, almost ruined a baseball career, possibly about to do a football career. Somebody needs to give Blake Griffin Kate Upton's phone number before the Clippers wind up getting into a fix they have never seen, even since the Sean Livingston fiasco. But she don't want to be a murderer. Here's the thing. I've been thinking about saying this for a while when it comes to Rihanna. I tell jokes. I like telling jokes. But if I weren't a comedian, I would really like to be a heavy hitter in the movie industry, you know. I want to be like a Christopher Nolan type. Because that guy, just everything he touches just comes out with perfect pitch. You know, George Clooney almost killed Batman, and Christopher Nolan just reinvigorated the character. And he's probably going to do the same thing with Superman. I would love to see Christopher Nolan try and reboot the movie The Bodyguard. But instead of having Whitney Houston, because of course Whitney has issues trying to breathe in 6 inches of water, I would very much like to see Rihanna take over the role of Rachel Marin. And then in addition to having Rihanna take over the role of Rachel Marin, I want him to bring back Kevin Costner. And then right in the very final scene where Kevin Costner is running across the stage to try and save Rihanna, I want her to pull a hamstring and fall. And then, actually, I would like to see the gunman then turn the gun on Costner as well. But Rihanna first. See, I'm not trying to say Chris Brown was right. I just like my movies to have artistically satisfying endings. I got to tell you something. The weekend out in Apple Valley, I think, has relaxed me a lot. Gang raping, a bunch of Al-Qaeda, putting a bullet in Rihanna's head. Yeah, I feel this has been a wonderful evening, guys. We will be back, Jeremy and I, on Sunset Boulevard next week, and by that time I will hopefully have something thoroughly lodged up my nostrils, so that I can tune out the odor of the homeless people there.